Welcome to the DARE podcast, where it is all about helping people overcome anxiety and panic attacks. The DARE app has over 1 million downloads and is free to download at dareresponse.com. Now, without further ado, here is the DARE podcast.
Hi.
Hi. So it worked. How about we jump into the first question, Michelle?
Let's get cracking. Okay, line 63. Can you read them because they're coming up weird on my phone today?
Yes. How do you deal with exposure becoming more difficult in terms of symptoms? For some reason, the fourth time I do something is worse than the first. Am I doing too much or should I keep going? It's very discouraging as far as motivation to keep doing exposures.
Okay. Exposure. So who on the chat, who's doing something like this? Doing exposure therapy, getting frustrated because it was fine the first and second time, and the third or fourth or fifth time it feels X, Y, and Z, and now it's frustrated because I should be doing exposure therapy enough times that I feel better and better and better and better until that feeling goes away. So me, I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere with exposures. Okay, who else is stuck with this? Talk directly to some people here. It's exposure therapy. Perfect. We'll start from the beginning with that.
Yes. Not doing well. It's hard, right? It's a hard thing to do. Yeah. But why don't we start at the beginning, Michelle? What is exposure therapy?
Okay. So the whole point of exposure therapy is to kind of like go back to normalize something back as not being dangerous. Okay, so whatever the phobia is, whatever the thing is, if my alarm is misfiring and sending me fear because for whatever reason it thinks puppies are danger, or I get scared when there's red balloons, or there's too many people, or there's not enough people, whatever it is, exposure is opening yourself up to whatever the situation is that's not inherently dangerous, right? To eventually have it basically kind of feel like nothing again, right? But that's not the goal. That's what's going to end up happening down the line. The goal is for you to change how you're acting in those situations, to stop treating the situations as dangerous. So your body's sending you fear because it senses danger. Okay. So when you go out to do exposure therapy, if you're going with the wrong intention of a goal being how I feel, you're going to get really frustrated, right? If the goal is, regardless of how much fear my body dumps into my body, I do not need to stay alive in the grocery store or engage in survival behaviors at the mall, or whatever, the hair salon, because I feel trapped. I need to leave right now. It's how I act when I go out. So if I feel good the first time and the second time, great. If I feel awful, I feel scared, I get that whoosh and I feel like I need to leave right now, that's okay too. Now, again, have that whoosh of fear and then look to identify what I'm fighting. Here's fight energy. What am I using it to survive through? If it's still just the grocery store and not fire in the grocery store, then that's where DARE comes in. How I treat how I feel where I am. So exposure therapy is really just kind of like normalizing the process, normalizing where I am, not with a certain goal as a feeling.
Yes, and to add to that, most people think that when they start to feel good in a situation, or better at least, this is when they have reached their goal and the exposure was working, quote unquote. But even though you feel scared in that situation still, and you still experience sensations, the exposure is still working. Right, as long as you stay in the situation until the anxiety has subsided a little bit. And it's really important when you are there, whichever situation you expose yourself to, that you stay there until the anxiety calms down a little bit. This is when you leave. But up until that happens, it might be that the first time you go there, your anxiety is maybe, let's say, a 6 out of 10. But you stay until it drops to, let's say, a 4 and you leave. And the next time you go, it might be a 3 out of 10. But the third time, it might be an 8 out of 10. That the goal is not to bring that down progressively. The goal is for you to stay in the situation, to expose yourself and stay in the situation until the anxiety calms down. This is when the relearning takes place. And also keep in mind that sometimes when you're sensitized due to lack of sleep or maybe life happens. We sometimes forget that there is next to anxiety, we have a life that can be really, really stressful, and that tends to sensitize us. And if you happen to go through a phase of high stress, then your body will most likely be more sensitized and more sensitive to desensitization of the exposure, if that makes sense. So don't pinpoint your progression to, did I feel less anxiety in the situation? Even when you sometimes feel, oh, this was harder than last time, or I'm not getting anywhere, as long as you focus on the right attitude and on staying in the situation until the anxiety drops, you are moving in the right direction.
Right. And also, if you go out and I feel great, I went 10 feet from home, I went 20 feet from home, I felt great. I went 30 feet from home, I went great. Oh, I only got 10 feet from home on the 5th day and I had a panic attack. And now I'm having a setback. And so now because I felt bad, I failed at my exposure there. That's not true. Again, that's what happens when you have a feeling as a goal, as opposed to how I treat how I feel where I am. That's go with that mindset. And so I know this comes up so often. Hard to stay until the anxiety goes down while the situation. Yes, I get that. And so I'll have that come up a lot because, oh, yes, the goal is if I'm in a 10, I'm going to stay, not to directly make myself get to an 8 and then leave. And then the exposure therapy worked because I calmed down. But to kind of like if you take a kid having a temper tantrum and saying, like, I want to go right now, like, we are not leaving this store until
Exactly.
like, like with that kind of mindset, not with the direct goal of like a whatever. So let's say you've been in the grocery store for 2 hours and they're closing the grocery store and it's time to go. And your anxiety was started at a 6 and you left at a 6. Okay. Let's just say that's the situation. Okay. Don't view that. That's not failure. It's all about your mindset shift anyway. Because again, at the end of this, there might be somebody who has anxiety, but we don't care about its presence. It's so what? That's the mindset shift. In the beginning, to practice that mindset shift, you'll be able to see anxiety coming down as a byproduct of you not caring. This is the part that's hard to put into words, not with the direct goal of going to stay in this grocery store and accept and allow, and it's okay. Okay, good. All right, good. It's coming down. Now I can go. You're still treating the absence or presence of that feeling as important. Does that make sense, guys?
Yes, but at the same time, when you apply DARE and you have the right attitude, the anxiety will drop, not because you start to feel calmer, but just you are showing your emotional brain, oh, look, although you think this is dangerous, and although you are sending me all this energy, it's okay. I'm safe here. And when you truly do that, your emotional brain will catch up and say, you're calm. All right, I think I can start to calm down too. That is the point where relearning happens. Right? So, and thank you for clarifying that, Michelle, because this might have caused some misunderstanding. Do you get that, guys? Does that make sense to you? The way
it's so hard to explain that piece because it's like, oh, I've noticed, right? Oh, my anxiety levels went down because I let it be there. But if it's a direct goal of like, well, they said to stay in the situation till it goes down, then you're still getting through. But if you're like, okay, that's it.
Maybe
whatever,
to illustrate this, even easy, if everybody who has a dog, and when your dog was a puppy and the male person came, you knew, oh, it's just the male person, but the puppy would go crazy and would start to bark. And you would be like, no, that's just the male guy. So you can bark, you can do your show, but I'm still not going to send him or her away because that is okay. But the dog still kept barking. It did not stop immediately, right? It happened the second and third and the fourth and the fifth time until eventually the dog understood, oh, okay, just the boring male guy. And it's the same with your emotional brain. Sometimes it takes 2 exposures and you're fine. Sometimes it takes 20, but it's important to not put it as a direct goal for you to be calm. But same as with the puppy, at some point the puppy will catch up and get that it is okay.
Right. And if the goal is normalization, it's not a whole production leading up to the exposure therapy and reviewing worksheets and all that. The goal is to just get back out and go to the grocery store. Like truly just get back into the sync of just go to the grocery store, go to the grocery store, go in the grocery store, go out of the grocery store and get more involved in life. We tend to make it a whole big like production almost. And then I did it, I got through it, I survived through it. And then I'm judging my progress based on that feeling, as opposed to just keep going out and involving yourself in life. And when you keep acting like the situation may be scary, but not danger, your body gets that based on how you're acting, not based on how you're feeling, how you're treating, how you're feeling. Okay. So involving yourself as much as possible in the thing that your alarm thinks is danger with a different approach, and you're treating it different, is what's going to make all the change.
Cool.
All right.
All right.
Okay,
Next.
I can read the next one. I can
Okay.
see. Oh, no, wait, no, I can't. Oh, yeah, yes, I can. Oh, it's long. I have GAD I have GAD, generalized anxiety disorder, and health anxiety. Have had it since I was a child. Now, as I am 54, it comes and goes. My anxiety set in bad when my youngest son left to join the military 3 years ago. Ever since, I can't seem to get myself out of this anxiety health mindset. Excuse me. I worry about the little things. I am still able to work, but when I am off for the day, I can't seem to settle myself, always have to be doing something or my mind will race more. My question is, how do I keep my anxiety health at bay? I was diagnosed with this at 21 years ago. I was diagnosed with this 21 years ago. I have had treatment, but stopped when I was getting better. Can you help give me techniques and skills for this? Bernadette, if you're here, you want to pop on and say hi, we can bring you in.
Yeah, great. Well, so first of all, you don't keep it at bay. Trying to keep it at bay is actually what makes it worse. So the boring answer to this question is all the responses that we give you to all the other questions apply here too. So apparently it seems like you started to fear your own thoughts, and then you try to keep busy all the time so you don't need to hear your thoughts. And that is classical avoidance behavior, meaning as soon as you stop, you will notice the thoughts more. And because you can't allow them, and because you treat them as something that could be dangerous, right? This is why your body acts accordingly. So you have a scary thought about something health related. What if? And you're like, oh my God, yeah, what if? And then your brain's like, oh my God, you're scared. Okay, here's some energy so you can fight or flee. And then you notice the whoosh, and then you mistake that whoosh or the thought to be true. So same progression like with all other anxious thoughts too. What has worked before for you, I assume that you've done some cognitive behavioral work in the past, but I'm not sure what you have done. But usually what once has worked will work again. So maybe start there. And if you have not done some work that is similar to there, then I suggest you start at the very basics, read the book, join the advanced, talk to people who've been through there. It's no exciting answer here. Back to basics. Start at the very, very basics.
Can you give techniques and skills for this? Yeah, it's really learning how to acknowledge that. So your son joined the military. Okay. So a bunch of what ifs, something could, he's away, something could happen, right? I don't want something to happen to my son. And so again, ideas of things that could happen that are out of your control. Health anxiety, ideas of things that could happen that are not in your control right now. And it's all this future-based, but it could. So look at our videos on all about the coulds, all about what ifs, fighting the future, fighting here to try and prevent there. Just had a post about this with the firefighters last week or the week before, trying to hose down a building that's not on fire yet. And we think if I engage in some sort of action and behaviors, I can somehow ward off something bad from happening. This comes up so much. Who just like put a little thumbs up or something. Do you do this? Have a thought of something I desperately don't want to happen. So I involve myself in something here, thinking if I do something here, I can prevent there. It's the worst. Yeah. Okay. And so this is where guilty, thumbs up. Okay. This is where worry comes in, because we're like engaged in some sort of behavior. It's like, if I think about it long enough, I'll somehow prevent it from happening. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of your resources. It's a waste of your energy. What is on my mind right now? What's my problem? Where's my energy going towards? If it's something that my energy and problem solving skills could do something productive, do something productive. Okay. If it's not, if it's something like just an idea of something that could happen that I don't want to happen, this is where you go into, watch that, our webinar with Dr. Winston, where it's learning how to zoom back, redirect your focus onto something else. She gave a great example of a TV just appeared in a new room in your house. How do you now treat it? I gave an example of multiple movie screens. I just did this with my daughter last night. Multiple movie screens, and you're in the movie theater, and this one's playing. It's a conditioned response. It becomes conditioned behavior. Every time a thought comes up, I then now sit down and watch the movie. You have the power of free will. Okay. You're welcome. You have the power to zoom out and make sure you have to zoom out first to make sure you know there are other screens playing. It's not just the one screen. There are other screens playing different movies. And so zoom out. What else is going on in my head? What else can I think about? What else is actionable? And then this is what, always talking about the same thing, whatever it is, whether it's thoughts, feelings, sensations, memories, what is, redirect your focus and attention. This is DARE, how I treat this thing and how much time I spend involved in it. If my involvement is not time well spent, I'm going to practice getting myself involved somewhere else that's more productive and useful for me. And when I get involved here, I become less involved here. Again, just like we were talking about with exposure therapy, you feel better by accident.
Yeah, so it's cognitive behavioral. The cognitive aspect of it is being mindful and noticing that your mind is bringing you anxious thoughts about the future, about your son, or about your health, whatever. Just because your mind is bringing you a thought, it doesn't say anything at all about its reality. The first step is to become more mindful, to notice, oh, I have an anxious thought, and also notice your conditioned behavior and the whoosh that comes with it. And, oh, okay, that's another thought. Oh, that's another adrenaline zap. All right, what is my behavior now? Do I go into some sort of safety or avoidance behavior? Well, here you go. This is what you need to change. Just by becoming mindful and diffusing from the thought, meaning instead of it being here in your face, you have a little bit more room to look at it and to decide differently. So basically you can think A and feel B, and conditioned behavior is immediately doing C. And what DARE teaches you is to have thought A, feel B, but then choose to do M or whatever, L, whatever you want. But those two parts are so important, that you notice, become mindful, and then change your behavior. We are not trying, and this is still where a lot of people get stuck, to change the thoughts. Aida, help me to get rid of these thoughts. I can't.
Yeah.
I can't. I wish I could, but I can't.
Or to tie into this chat here, or they're back. Same thing. Oh, but they're back. That was never the goal.
Never.
The goal was never elimination of a thought, a feeling, or a sensation. It was not elimination.
How impressed are you by a thought? Look, Michelle, let's pick a thought about health. What if my head explodes? Yeah. Oh my God, I need to dye my hair. What if it causes me allergy? I could go into shock. There you go. And then we go.
And so here's that thought. And generally what happens if it's a thought that doesn't create some sort of bothered feeling, it's just a thought. But we're really, really only attending to the thought to try and attend to the bothered feeling. Mm-hmm. That's where we get stuck. Oh, not only do I not want that thing to happen, I also feel bothered. I feel unsettled. And if I can just do something about that thought, I could feel more settled. And our goal is to just you're allowed to feel bothered. That's not a nice thought. That bothers me too. But you don't have to not feel bothered either.
And assign meaning to it. Assign meaning to that feeling. There's no meaning in it. It feels meaningful, but it is not. And if you behave in a way that, for example, safety or avoidance, and what you're doing is you're saying, oh, that feeling is true. And this is why it comes back and comes back and comes back. And somebody posted in the chat, I keep checking my heart rate. Can you help with this? Yes. You know what? Stop checking your heart rate. Right now. Stop it.
Right now. And that's your piece in the puzzle. You don't get to decide what your heart does. You don't get to decide how you feel about your heart. Your only piece that you have control over is my actions and my behaviors. So how do I stop checking? You just stop.
And you know, and you welcome the discomfort that comes with not checking. Because if it wouldn't be uncomfortable, you wouldn't have an issue with anxiety. right? But you think, oh, if I don't check it, then, oh my God, if I don't check it, then I might be in danger. Because by checking, I'm keeping myself safe, but you are not. The only thing
Right.
that you're doing is you're keeping your anxiety alive. It's like, imagine a little monster. It's there. And every time that you do something, even just something in a very, very subtle way, like, oh, let me just check briefly how high my heart rate is, but just quickly on my Apple Watch, you already fed that monster a little bit. And a little bit and a little bit. And sometimes you feed it a lot and then it grows very big, very fast. And sometimes it's in a very subtle way, but it keeps growing as long as you feed it. If you want to be free of anxiety, you must stop feeding the anxiety monster, so to speak, to use that.
What are you doing and why are you doing it? Because some people are checking their Apple Watches just to say, oh, wow, look how high I got my heart rate up today. That's awesome. Great. But if it's, what are you doing and why am I doing it? I feel my heart's racing really fast. Oh my gosh, I don't want to have a heart attack. Better check my heart rate. And if it's just the right number, then I'm fine. It's not the right number. What should I do? Perform open heart surgery on myself? No, I'm just going to check again. And I'm going to keep checking because I feel bothered and I'm scared and I'm anxious and I'm worried. And then checking, which was originally your answer to your problem, then becomes the problem because there's no end to the checking until you stop checking. And if somebody wants to scream at me and say, is there something done? Oh, just stop, Michelle. All right, I would have just stopped. But really, that's the answer. Not try to stop and don't check and like resist the urge. Not that. And more of a, what is the point of me checking? What is the point of me checking? What am I checking? Oh, my heart's racing. And all I get to do is check it and go, yeah, it's racing. Mm-hmm. It's the behaviors. If you're acting like my heart racing is a danger, then I'm going to keep checking the same way I check for snakes and the same way I check to see if the fire is out. Okay. If you're checking discomfort has now been marked as danger. If you're checking the coulds of danger or memories of danger, you're still in survival behavior mode. And so, of course, survival energy will keep pumping until you stop survival behaviors first, and then your survival energy level will start to wind itself back down.
And you know what you're doing. You know where you're going wrong. You know exactly what kind of behaviors you engage in that keep the anxiety alive, right? So do an inward thought. Sit down, take a pen and paper, write down all the subtle ways that you are engaging in some form of control behavior. Start there. Start by letting go of these behaviors and see magic happens. Because sometimes people, they feel like they have everything in check, and this happens, I'm sure, to you. You experience this a lot with your clients too, Michelle. Like, I'm doing everything, majority of my anxiety is gone, but there's still like this.
If I could just get rid of this detached feeling, I'll be fine.
Yeah, or just those last 10%, I'm just stuck there. What do I do? Well, take a close look into your behavior and how you are avoiding or doing some safety stuff. Because if you just do it 10%, anxiety will still haunt you with those 10%. You will never have the feeling of being truly free. Okay, and it's okay. My cat accidentally bit me the other day in my finger, and like cat teeth, they are very sharp and huge. I didn't know that. I was like, oh, my brain went.
But by the way, before you talk about your cat, you talked about your cat on the webinar when he was missing, and it's nice that he bit you because
he's back. Thank you for reminding me too. Hey, you guys, you were so lovely when I told you that my cat was missing. So thank you for your love and your sympathy. He's back. He survived. He was in very bad shape. But anyway, he bit me accidentally. And my brain was like, I read that cat bites are very infectious. You should go and Google. You know what? I did go and Google. I did it. I went to the Google search and I was like, oh, that doesn't sound really good. I was like, well, you know what? It is what it is. So I disinfected it, used some antibiotic cream, and that was about it. But you know what my brain did for the next 2 days? Are you sure? Are you sure? You should really get this checked out. Are you sure? I mean, you won't notice in the first 24 hours, but what if the bacteria move up to your brain? All the chit-chatting did go on in my head. So it's not that we do not experience it, but we do not feed it. I did have the urge to check it again and to read more about it and to read other people's stories of their cat bites to see how they experienced it. And so I can reassure myself that, oh, they're still alive, they're fine. This is what my emotional brain wanted me to do. But
Right.
this
Cat
is
bite forums. Let's find the
Yeah.
worst case scenario and we'll check their symptoms. And are they similar to my symptoms? Now, well, mine's itchy. Oh, yours was itchy and her arm fell off. Oh my gosh, my arm's itchy. And we just stay involved. Like, that's why I like talking about intrusive thoughts, because I have them all in every color of the rainbow. My alarm never hooked to them. So I never had a whoosh attached to them. You guys know my whoosh was attached to something else, but I can think every violent, sexual, vulgar, blasphemous thought you can think of, every terrible thing that can happen to my children every time they leave. We were just in Wildwood, okay, the Jersey Shore. Every amusement park ride, I just imagined every single thing. Who went flying, what collapsed, what, eliminating those thoughts, that's not the goal. Okay, then I would call you. Those tickets are freaking expensive now, but it's fun. But like, it's how much time did I spend involved in there? What behavior did I then engage in to prevent my bad imagination from coming true? That's where we get locked in. And there is to unlock that part, whether it's hooked to intrusive thoughts, or I feel disconnected, or I feel too connected, or I don't like how I'm breathing right now. I don't like how my heart's beating right now. It's getting better at letting yourself not like it. It's getting better at allowing that bothered feeling without attaching a must do something or else behavior because I feel bothered. That's dare. And we can cut and paste it to many of these questions. Well, what about health anxiety? Well, what about whatever? It's this idea of something bothers me. I don't want the bad thing to happen and I don't want to be bothered anymore. And so now I'm engaging in behaviors to prevent the bad thing from happening or to stop being bothered. That's the problem. You're engaging in survival behaviors for non-survivable things.
And Dare really teaches you to see your mind for what it is, a thought-producing machine that comes up with a load of crap. But we still, I think there is this deep belief in us that if our mind brings up weird or bizarre or scary things, that it must mean something. It must mean something.
Right.
And so, oh my God, why am I thinking like that?
Why else would I be thinking about that? I must be
Why
crazy.
Exactly.
Crazy people think those thoughts.
And if you look closely, there's this demand for our mind to not do that. And the demand is wrong. Everything, if that demand wouldn't exist, and for example, Michelle and I, we do not demand that from our mind. We do not. We're like, oh, okay, it's going to bring up a lot of crazy stuff. That's okay. I'm not expecting anything else. This is why we are not impressed when our mind does that. And this is where you can get to. But the road to getting there is full of hurdles, because you will fall into the trap of, again, believing, oh no, but there must be something wrong, or else this wouldn't be happening. The meaning you assign to things is so, so important, because it has either the power to drag you down into an anxious spiral, or to be like, okay, funny idea. Let's move on.
Right.
But practice
and it's
that.
the move on. We get stuck, and I want you to get stuck as many times. But how quickly you are aware of stuck and aware of behaviors as to why you're stuck, because that's what helps you move on. Not doing something about thought, but the change behaviors is what gets you unstuck.
Unstuck yourself.
Stuck yourself. All right.
Cool.
Moving right along. Same thing. I want you guys to hear how many times we say the word. Any tips, any suggestions, how to deal with, I'm dealing with, I've been struggling with, it doesn't work, trying is a word that comes up. I'm trying to accept and allow. It's all active doing things. So if I'm trying to do stuff I'm struggling with, they're all actions. Okay. So, and we're teaching non-action, which is tricky. Is there any tips in dealing with constant fatigue and the days you are just exhausted? These are the days I have difficulty accepting and engaging. From Sean. Sean, if you're on, if you want to pop on, we can talk to you directly.
Yeah. Well, exhaustion makes everything 10 times more difficult. That's just the way it is. When you are tired or exhausted, you have more activity in your emotional brain, meaning imagine it this way. If your rational brain is your bodyguard and your emotional, or the parents, and your emotional brain are the teenagers, if you're tired or exhausted, it's like the bodyguard or the parents say, you know what, I'm going to go for a nap. You kids do whatever you want. Well, what will you notice then? Right? That the kids are not going to be rational and reasonable, but they will start to do crazy things. And this is what you notice more when you're tired or exhausted. My advice would be on days.
And he's here, by the way. He wrote hi.
Oh, hi. Oh,
Sean.
hi, Sean. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my
Hello.
advice would be if you experience days where you're particularly exhausted or tired, take a break, take a rest from intense exposures. You know, exposure can be done mentally too, because just thinking about anxiety or a scary situation when you experience anticipatory anxiety, you can work with that too. But, and I don't know are you talking, you find it hard to do exposures, like situational stuff when you're tired, or just in general accepting and allowing the anxiety? But anyway, the answer goes for both things. Accept that it's hard to accept on those days, but also don't look at it as failure or as a step back, but always be kind to yourself and tell yourself, you know what, as soon as I have more energy, this will be easier.
I would add one caveat, because if you're talking about tips with dealing with constant fatigue, as if that's the cycle, like I'm fighting fatigue all day long, it becomes similar to fighting feeling disconnected. I'm fighting dizzy all day long. I'm constantly fatigued. It's the similar sort of cycle. So if it's I'm going along doing great. Now I'm really tired. Great. All right. You take a rest day at the gym, whatever. You start like listening to your body sometimes, right? But if it's this loop of, how do I feel? Am I tired? I'm constantly tired. I have to keep resting all day long and check and see, did it work? Am I not tired yet? Then fatigue gets marked as danger. And that fatigue loop is the same loop we get stuck in here. It's the same pain loop, fatigue loop, anxiety loop. What about being fatigued? Like, what is your story about that? Is it a black and white story? Every time, if I could just get rid of this feeling, then I can get back into life. So must stay home and do 10 million things and search about fatigue and try and rest to check to see if it worked. Is it gone? Is that more your thing, Sean? Because if it's not, or if anybody else is hearing this, do you see how it's the same similar mindset? Here's the state that I'm in that I desperately don't like. What should I do about it? Other than just notice that I'm in it. Then it gets labeled with all these it gets labeled as a threat and danger also.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it is. He says. Yes. And
mine?
No, he responded to you, Michelle. Yeah, that's
okay.
How it is.
So your job is to get better at being fatigued. How I treat the feeling of fatigue.
While you treat yourself nicely while you feel fatigued. Michelle, say it again.
How you feel, how you treat how you feel, and how you treat yourself while you feel.
Oh, I love this so much. It's my all-time favorite because it says everything, right? You do not label the fatigue as dangerous. You keep applying DARE, and while you accept and allow and feel fatigued, you take good care of yourself, especially in generalized anxiety disorder. The lifestyle aspect is overlooked. It's really, really, really important to bring that activity in the amygdala down a little bit, not as a goal to be calmer, but to help your body desensitize. Everything starts with sensitization. If there wouldn't be sensitization, you wouldn't have an anxiety issue. So it's the disordered part of anxiety, the anxiety about the sensitization is addressed with DARE, but then there is still desensitization. So it's a good idea to help your body to bring that down with self-care and exercise and nutrition. But let me just say as a disclaimer, you can do all
your
of
overall well-being.
Yeah, you can do all of these things if you use them as a product to fight yourself to a calm state. Not gonna work.
Yeah, and that's why if you look up any tips for fatigue, so you'll have actual tips for, did you try this oil? Did you try this approach? Did you try this kind of sleep? Did you try this pillow? Did you try all these things to make fatigue a 10 to a 4 to a 3 to a 1 to eliminate fatigue? And so same thing for any tips for nausea, any tips for dizzy. Oh, nausea, sure, try ginger, try peppermint. There are tips to help alleviate specific discomforts. But if you're going at it with the must or else approach, this will be the thing that marks this fluctuating discomfort as danger, the must or else mindset. So sure, there's lots of things that could help foster a good night's sleep. Dr. Nishi came on and did our webinar with us. Great tips to help sleep. But if sleep is your danger, all of these things are now probably being used as weapons. And so use them for your overall wellness and well-being. You're not going to turn on heavy metal music and blast it up. Like you're going to put on maybe a white noise machine and a comfortable bed. You're not going to sleep on rocks. You're going to sleep on a bed. You're going to set the scene for sleep so you allow your body to fall asleep, not so you can do those things to force sleep, to eliminate dizzy, to eliminate tired, because you're just cranking out energy, trying to get rid of tired, which is cranking out energy, which makes you more tired. Just be tired. Somebody wrote, is the DARE technique trying? The DARE technique is really being. Like, be with discomfort, and when you are allowing discomfort with a different approach, the label of danger comes off of it. And then I just have thoughts I don't like. And then the pairing with anxiety kind of starts to break apart here.
Well, next question. Evergreen as well. I feel detached from reality. Can I be normal again? It's been over 2 months. Michelle, what do you have to say about DPDR that lasts for a longer time?
I mean, it's replace fatigue with I feel detached, right? And if that's now the focus of the goal, I used to feel this and now I feel this. Will I ever feel normal again? Which would mean this feeling is gone and I go back to here, which also means I'm going to keep a very careful eye on this and check. And who sent this in? Marcel, if you're on, pop on too, right? Are you waking up in the morning and immediately, how do I feel? How connected do I feel? Every time I see somebody, I'm trying to elicit this feeling of connectedness. I'm checking all day to see if I feel weird, if I don't feel weird. Again, it's the same behaviors you're involved in. That feeling is now my goal. And you're doing a lot of work to achieve this goal and probably getting frustrated that, oh my God, I'm using DARE. Who says this? Using DARE all day long. And it's so exhausting. How much longer do I need to do this to see some progress? Because I'm using DARE all day long, but it's not working because I still feel blank. Feeling is not a goal. The absence of a feeling is not a goal. Connected or non-connected, it's not like these are not goals. This is what starts off the process, me treating this as something that needs to be done. All it does is keep a careful eye on it and marks it as danger. So you see more of it. The more you try and feel more connected, the more aware of how disconnected you will find. Right?
Yes, and also maybe, now I don't know what is going on in your situation, if you have anxiety or how this came about, but if you, let's say, very, very rare cases, but it happens, so I'm mentioning them as a disclaimer. Let's say something happened 2 months ago, you were in an accident or somebody died or any traumatic event occurred in your life. It might be possible that the detachment is a protective mechanism because you cannot process the traumatic event that has been happening. If that should be the case, then definitely work on that. But if it's the classical detachment as a result of high anxiety or panic attack or what happens all the time, it's absolutely crazy how many times this comes up as people experience a phase of DPDR after the consumption of marijuana. It's been a pandemic. It's absolutely crazy. If that is the case, or if it's just classical panic attack, high anxiety, everything that Michelle said, and be aware of that DPDR cycle. So you notice it, oh, I feel detached. Then there was my label. This is dangerous. And then catastrophization. Oh my God, what if I go crazy? What if I lose my mind? Then all the existential stuff usually sets in. And then you try to control, to prevent a worst case scenario from happening through introspection, because that's the only thing that is at your disposal as a control mechanism in DPDR is introspection and reassurance. And when you do that, when you constantly introspect to monitor if your thoughts have changed, or if you already have reached a new level of detachment, or how other people experience it, and you keep Googling all these programs, then this is what keeps the cycle actually going. This is what is maintaining it. So you need to stay away from that as best as you can, and truly understand that DP and DR are sensations from the emotional realm, not the mental realm. People always think, I've never met anybody who said, oh, I had this detached feeling and I completely trusted my sanity that nothing bad will happen. Everybody's like, oh my God, this is like the weirdest thing I have ever experienced. This is horrible. This feels like I'm about to lose my mind. Everybody experiences.
Either there's something wrong with my brain. Now there's something inherently wrong with my brain, or I smoked too much pot and now I've switched something in my brain that's irreversible and I'm stuck like this forever. Or, somebody beat me to it. Or this is on my way to being psychotic. This is the path that crazy people take. And I'm super aware. Awareness is the kicker to show you people that are psychotic are not aware of being psychotic. We have the opposite problem. It's a heightened awareness. You have a heightened awareness of feeling detached. Because if you were detached, it would all kind of be more in sync. It's hard to explain this. It's a heightened awareness of feeling disconnected, almost being like too connected of the fact that I'm disconnected. And that's all of this is, again, how I treat, like Aida was saying, the cycle. It's that itch scratch cycle. I'm itchy. I don't like this feeling. I must do something about it. And I scratch, which creates more irritation, which makes you feel more itchy, which makes you engage in more scratch behaviors. And there are many things that help with itch. We're here to help you with scratch.
Exactly.
Whatever it is you're scratching.
And regarding the topic of going crazy, psychosis, erasing mind, it's interesting because we think when our mind races, oh, and I'm about to go crazy. Why is that? Because our thoughts usually, if you imagine like a swirl, flow in a steady pace. We're like, In depression, what happens is that it slows down. Everything becomes very slow. And in anxiety, what happens, it becomes really, really fast. And then we feel out of control because we cannot catch every single thought and look at it and say, I don't know what I think about this, or yes or no, because it's too fast. And this makes us feel out of control. And this out of control feeling is what we then relate to psychosis. Psychosis, again, we have this idea of hallucinations, and of course that happens, but in most cases what happens is that people become much more still. They withdraw from their surroundings, they withdraw from their family and from their emotions. Everything becomes slower, and not everything becomes faster, right?
Now that fast thing is great when there's danger happening. And if anybody who's ever been in a dangerous situation, you are making not a million, I'm exaggerating, a whole lot of decisions at once. Like even like driving back and forth to vacation we were on, my husband's driving and I'm like looking at, there's like 5 lanes of traffic one way, 3 lanes the other, emerging lane. And we're talking to the kids and he's got the GPS on. We are pretty amazing creatures, human beings, to be able to not only know the mechanisms of driving a car, but also eat a donut and talk to your kids and Daddy, make the volume up. I don't want to, who has a charger? Where are all the chargers? Why do I keep buying chargers? That's a different problem. But like the fact that we can assess, there's cars merging on and we're looking and we're checking and you look, we were meant to, that's how our brains work. When we let our brains do the thing and the eyes focus on what needs doing. So if there's a car coming towards us, no kidding, Garden State Parkway will test your limits. No kidding. There's a lot of exits on that one. So like if a car is coming towards you, you have more decisions to make. So you're in a heightened state, making more, what can I do more quickly? And so I know it's hard to explain that feeling, but I think I'm preaching to the choir here where you guys get it, where like time slows down and speeds up at the same time. That's how it feels, right? You feel disconnected and going 100 miles an hour at the same time. Because if there was real danger, you would be looking at the truck. But when now all I'm looking at is my head that's in danger mode, then my head gets marked as danger. Oh, my head's going really fast, 1,000,000 miles a minute, as it should when you're in survival mode. But if there's nothing to survive through, we start treating our head as the danger, and it is not. And you fighting racing thoughts isn't keeping you safe or sane or preventing psychosis, because that wasn't the first step of psychosis anyway. But that continued behavior is what's continuing keeping you locked.
Yes, and I liked what you said, Michelle, with the hyper awareness and noticing everything. You know, our brain, as you said, is designed to focus on one thing. And everybody try this exercise. Take your hand and focus, and you will notice that everything around you becomes blurry. And this is how it's supposed to be. Now, if I do this, I notice more. Here again, what happens in anxiety, that the blurriness goes away and you're aware of everything. And this is what causes this, oh my God, I noticed so much. There's so much to process, right? And this is what contributes to this out of control feeling. In those moments, always remind yourself, it is just exclamation mark, nothing more than heightened awareness. As Michelle said, if you would be in a dangerous situation, you wouldn't even notice that your senses are heightened. This is the point of it. So you notice more things. And when you have a panic attack, which is a misfire, or there's an imagined threat in your head about, oh, what if of the allergy or whatever, the brain tumor, your body reacts in the here and now with the same reaction. You have that same amount of energy and that heightened awareness, but there is nothing to fight. There is no danger to focus on. Now, what will you focus on? The next best thing. And that could be something like, what if it's my heart? What if it's my brain? What if it's, oh, I feel detached? There you go. There you have your context.
Or your own alarm, right? If there's a guy in the back seat and you're constantly driving through danger zones and you trust your wingman, right? Well, he'd be next to you, right? You trust your wingman. Watch the right, go to the left, go. And you're listening to what he's saying to survive through danger. But if you're just trucking along and he's still going, go, watch the right, watch the left. But then you start treating him as a problem. Shut up, just shut up so I can drive. And we're here to teach you how to just get back into driving mode while he screams, and eventually he shuts himself up because you're acting as if safety. We don't have to be calm to be safe. So we want to start acting like where I am right now is safe. And that's why I would accept and allow whatever's here, because thoughts are not dangerous. I can have thoughts and a bunch of fear that does not equal danger. That's bad math. Thoughts that I don't like and fear are not danger. It's fear, my body producing fear to help me fight what I've treated as danger. I'm treating thoughts like danger, which means I have to start treating thoughts differently. And then the fear will stop showing up so much. Then they go back to just being thoughts I don't like, or feelings I don't like, or sensations I don't like.
Maybe it's a weird analogy, but I'm going to try it anyway. It definitely sounds better in German, but I'm going to try it. Everything is sensitization, you guys. Don't forget that. We call it anxiety, because this is what we like to call it. We like to pinpoint everything back to anxiety. But what actually is happening is you're sensitized. Sensitization, imagine a beautiful green forest. Now, what happens if you turn on the temperature and it stays constantly on, let's say, 40 degrees? What happens to that forest? Will start to change, right? It will not be that green. It will not be as flourishing and
sorry, 100 degrees for us, by the way. 40 degrees is cool. 100 degrees for us, 40 degrees for you.
And it's the same with our body. When we're sensitized, our body will show the sensitization in different ways, in form of physical sensations, in form of this hyper awareness, in form of a racing mind. That doesn't mean that, and this is why we say it, and this is, by the way, the daily dare that caused a lot of controversy, which was anxiety is not a mental illness, ties well into this. It's not a mental illness because the way we see it and the way we try to to tell you guys is that at the basis of anxiety about anxiety is sensitization. And your goal is to bring down the sensitization. So you are normal. What you're experiencing, although very uncomfortable, is a normal reaction of your body, of your nerves that are strained. And you can add to that sensitization by fighting it. But if you don't fight it, the temperature will cool down again and everything will start to regenerate, right? You don't have to go and tell the forest or the trees, oh, now you need to do this, and this is how you grow your stem back. It just happens. It does its thing, and our body is the same. It will regenerate itself as soon as the temperature cools down. But try to, for 3 days, okay? 3 days, try to forget about the word anxiety and just tell yourself, oh, I'm sensitized. I'm sensitized. This is just stress hormones, nothing more. And watch how it does change the way you perceive, the way you feel, and your hyper-awareness and your thoughts, how much easier it is to apply DARE or any other cognitive behavioral tool for that matter, when you see it for what it is. Not a big thing. I have generalized anxiety disorder. I get why you guys say that. I understand that this is a diagnosis you've been giving, and sometimes it feels relieving to have a word for whatever you're experiencing. But if you dissect it, really what it is sensitization, conditioned behavior to worry, and all of this you can reverse. So this is why it's not a mental illness, let's say like schizophrenia, or let's say bipolar disorder. You cannot just go to therapy, to talk therapy, and your bipolar disorder will disappear. It just won't work. Major depression. We're not talking about the reactive depression, the neurotic depression, but where some stuff actually happens in your brain. You can do therapy to help to get back into your life, but it will not do anything for your brain chemistry, right? Does that make sense? But anxiety is cognitive behavioral. Okay.
And you pre-answered the next question, actually. And I'm just going to say the question so it ties in here with this too. Hi, my question relates to travel anxiety. I get oversensitive to noises, specifically the sound of traffic or the noise from machinery, such as air conditioners at night, and get very anxious and I can't sleep. Sometimes if I find where the noise is coming from, I can settle down, but mostly I get anxious. It makes it hard to go away or enjoy being away. Thanks. You're in a heightened state for whatever reason, because subtly or not subtly, you've kind of sent this message to yourself that home is safe and not home is not safe, or I'm just not in my element. We tend to be creatures of routine and habit, right? And it's like, it's nice to be away, but I'm not my normal, regular routine. And so everything's in a little heightened state because something's different. It doesn't even have to be bad. It could just be different. Like we tend to always go to the negative stuff that we don't like, but even just change, like a job promotion can create anxiety. Nice changes, people getting married creates anxiety because it's change, it's different, it's more unknown. And so again, desensitization happens, it's this thing, guys, this thing that I still have here for some reason. Like sensitization happens quick to turn on. Desensitization happens again. Sorry, you might not like my colorful language, but it comes down to leaving shit alone. Leave it alone. But how? I'm trying to leave something alone and leaving it alone are two different mindsets. Okay. So you don't have to like it to leave it alone. It's how involved in the thing I don't like is that I am, as opposed to leave it alone, right? You watch a scary movie, you're in a sensitized state. So expect when the movie's over to go, what was that? What was that? A creak in the steps, my door closed, and you're going to have more of a jump than usual. Oh, of course, you just watch a scary movie, so your body's in a heightened state. But now what? You don't now turn inward and try to calm down your heightened state. You just the movie's over and you go on with life. The heightened state now doesn't become the identified problem. The heightened state resolves itself anyway as you keep looking this way. What happens is this is behind the curtain stuff. And when something happens that becomes noticeable and we start noticing what's happening behind the curtains, we start putting our heads here. And now we're no longer living here. So now everybody's living two different lives, right? Putting on a show here. and trying to shut everything up and control thoughts and hang on, don't go crazy and don't die and don't have heart attacks and get rid of thoughts and try and calm down. We were not meant to put our head here. Maybe a passing glance, but we weren't meant to live here or stay here. You don't need to stay here unless you find it interesting or like you're into philosophy or want to see, oh, that's so cool what my heart does. But if it's like, oh my gosh, stay alive and don't die, that's the problem. It's taking your head out from behind the curtains. That's where trust comes in. The opposite of anxiety is trust. That means close the curtains and turn my head while fear is still present. But I have to let go of it to grow trust and come back here into life, regardless of what's behind that curtain, whether it feels weird or this looks weird or this thought or this feeling. I have to take my focus and attention from it. Not my aware. I'm aware of it. I see it. It's here. I've noticed it. It's noticeable. But this is the part that we're in charge of. This is the free will part where I stay involved, whether it's behind the curtains or on stage. What am I cracking up? It's so relatable. Good. I'm glad it's relatable. And I have trust issues. So, and if you've grown, if you have trust issues, then you're very good at hanging on because it's protective. Take care of myself. Somebody has hurt me before. So it makes sense that I would take care of myself and keep a careful eye on myself and make sure I'm safe, especially not to get too deep into any of this, but especially if nobody in my life ever took care of me or kept me safe. If I don't know what safety feels like, I'm going to do everything to stay safe because our job as human beings, we were designed to stay alive. And if that's all we know of how to stay alive, we're just trying to get you, if you're no longer need to be in survival mode anymore, that's just happens to be what you had to do maybe to stay alive. And now you're here and you're safe. This is how you show yourself safety, and you show yourself safety by letting go.
I think that was a fantastic ending to this webinar, Michelle.
Thank you. Yeah. It's pretty good. It's a good webinar. All right, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Have a great day. Take care. Bye, Aida.
Bye, Michelle. Love you.
Thank you for listening to the DARE podcast. The DARE app has over 1 million downloads and is helping people all around the world to overcome anxiety and panic attacks. You can download the app for free at dareresponse.com.